everyone, it's Daphne from Scrap and Crate, and today I'm going to do a quick tutorial on how to use an edge die. I'm going to actually feature some die cut edges in the Oriental Garden album that I'm working on. So I'm going to do a separate little tutorial on how to arrange that, and then as I go through the album, I'm not going to repeat that process. I'm going to ask you to go back to this video and refer to it if you need some further instructions. So let's get started. So I'm just using two highly contrasting sheets of paper to help demonstrate what I'm doing here. And the first thing I'm going to do is, let's see, what do I want? I think I want the black to be the matte, and then the cream will be the feature on top. So I'm going to trim this down just to an arbitrary size. So let's just say the flap is 4 by 6. I'm going to trim this down to 4 by 6. Okay, so here's my 4 by 6 flap or feature. It could be even a pocket. And I'm going to have this be matted on top. So my preferred mat is a 1/16 of an inch all the way around. So I'm going to make a mat that fits on top of here, and I'm going to trim it down to be 1/8 inch shorter and 1/8 inch thinner. And so this will be 3 7/8 by 5 7/8. Oops, I did that wrong, hang on. Five and 7/8. Okay, now I've got these two pieces of paper, and if I nest them, I should have this nice 1/16 of an inch border. So that's what you want to start with. You want to start with however you want your finished mat to look. If you want a 1/4 inch border, whatever that measurement is, but trim it down so that it fits in the fashion that you're accustomed to or that you desire. And then the next thing you're going to do is you're going to keep it centered left and right, and you're going to push it all the way to the top. So you have even borders on either side and flush across the top. Now we're going to apply our die. Our die will sit just across the top like so. And you're going to cut both of these pieces of paper at the same time. So it's critical that this is flush so that when you back off, it will have the perfect amount of border left when you're finished. If you start like this and trim it down, what will happen is your black and your cream will both meet at the top, so you won't have a mat. So remember to push it all the way to the front. Make sure it's even side to side, and then I tape it down. So I've got some tape here that is removable, and I'm going to tape my border here, my border die here, side to side. I'm going to tape it down. And then this whole thing, oops, it shifted underneath. So I'm going to reposition the black piece. Okay, and I've got another piece of tape here, and I'm just going to tape this like so to keep the panel from shifting. Now I'm going to bring in my die cut machine, and I have a big Sizzix Big Shot, I think is what it's called. I'm going to sandwich this between the two acrylic plates and run it through, and then I want to show you the result. Okay, now see how if we had left the mat shifted down, it would have a very flush edge like this. Oops, sorry about that. I'm trying to move all this so you can see directly without all the obstruction. So you'd have a flush mat like that. But because we shifted it up, we can now shift it down it was a little bit stuck from being pressed together. And there's our perfect border. So that's how I do it. I think there are a couple other techniques, but that's my method. Some people trim the top mat and then trace it to cut the bottom mat. I think this is easier. So you just run both pieces of paper through the machine at one time. So the key here is to remember when it looks like this, you want to push it all the way to the edge that's going to be die cut, and then slide it back down. And there is a feature inside the book where I actually do this on both sides. So in this case, I slid it all the way up, trimmed it, and then in the one in the book, I turned it over, slid it all the way to the top, die cut again, and then centered this cream on the black, and it worked out beautifully. So I'm going to go ahead and do that for you while we're together so you can see what that looks like. Okay. So that's done. So I just need to lay this here. And you really do need some removable tape or washi tape to hold things in place. Otherwise you'll get frustrated. So now I'm going to use one more piece of tape to hold the black and cream together so they don't slide around. All right. As you can see, the cream and black are flush. And I really like the way this turns out. I don't do it very much in my mini albums because it's quite time consuming. And generally, I'm trying to get content out a little bit faster for you guys. But I do think it is beautiful. And almost any design that I do, you can add some ornamental borders to. So now you can see this cut flush, right? So we'll take this piece of tape off on the bottom. And I actually used this design for a belly band in the Oriental Garden book that I'm working on right now. And I'll point it out when I get to it. And now you can center it, and there's your perfect border on both sides. So that's how I use the dies. This is sort of this special instructional video, so you can use this really on any album that you're working on. But I wanted to demonstrate this die in particular because this is the one that I'm actually using in Oriental Garden. So I'll show it to you real quick. It is Spellbinders. It's S5202. S5202. And I'm just using one of the simplest ones in the collection. I did that for a couple of reasons. One, I think the paper sort of speaks for itself. And two, I didn't want to deal with raking out all these bits and pieces. It's just too time consuming when I'm trying to get an album done for you guys. So if you've got the patience and more time, you might want to do that. I also save what comes off because these can be used as design elements on your page. For example, at the bottom of a page, it could become a small tuck spot. So I save these, and sometimes I use them in my design. Sometimes I don't, but I go ahead and save them. So that's it. That's the tutorial for how to use this die, and I want to get you guys ready. So in the case of a piece that you're working on that has a score, if the score is folded over, it's really hard to get it through your machine. So I typically flatten it out first. But when I'm centering the paper, I'll fold the flaps over because visually I want to see what the finished flap is going to look like. Center my mat and then unfold it before I run it through the machine. So that's just another quick tip. You can get it through the machine. It's just pretty hard to crank it through when you've got those flaps folded over. That's a lot of paper. So thanks for tuning in. Again, this is going to be featured on the Oriental Garden album coming up soon. Thanks. This is Daphne.